What are you doing in here? We're not done yet. Let's go. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the big delay in this latest upload here. A lot of the moving, packing, unpacking took a little longer than expected, as well as finishing up this drawing here. But anyway, welcome back to my channel, Chaotic Nuance. And welcome to my new studio slash bedroom. We're out here doing this in Euless. Yeah, that's right. Euless, Texas, right on the edge of Fort Worth and Arlington. And it feels really good to be back. Drawing this drawing, finishing this depiction of Milo of Croton moments before he's about to embark on this journey where he carries this bull he's known for his whole life up this mountain, culminating into this kind of climax of his fitness journey, I guess you could say. You could learn more about kind of the idea and thought process behind this piece in my previous video, the part 1 version of this video. It was a little bit daunting to get back into pushing pencil on paper with this piece after having, stepping away briefly after moving and all of that. So I previously left off after having established most of the primary forms in the figure. There was still a lot left to be done with the figure, but I decided it was good to move on and do some work on the bull. All right, and what you just saw there was a little strategy I developed in order to better control the charcoal powder, charcoal powder that I laid down into the background, I wanted to lay it down much more controlled, in a much more controlled way. In the previous drawing, it was really hard to control, and it really affected the final value range I wanted the background to go to. It got just a little bit out of control in the previous drawing, and I don't know if anybody has done this, but I basically just took some tracing paper and made a little bit of a stencil for the charcoal powder to go over and be guided by. It still required, as you can see, I'm doing that right here. It still required a little bit of, some touch-ups and damage control, but I think that helped quite a lot. You can see all the values. I was able to control the values very well, and I was able to control the values very consistently. It didn't turn out very blotchy, and the sky was still able to remain pretty bright as well. And so that worked out great. It might be a little bit tedious, take a little bit of extra work, but I think it was worth it. So at this point, moving forward, pretty much all of the kind of major values, forms, lighting, shading, all of that has been pretty well established in the whole composition. Now it's just a matter of really homogenizing everything and making everything work together. You see I'm kind of reworking the feet and the grass that both the bull's feet and the figure's feet are interacting with, as well as the cast shadows. As far as the ground goes, I kept that super simple, and tried to just imply that it was a big field of grass with some texture here and there, but I'm not sure if I like it, and I'm not sure if it sells quite the way I want it to. So I'll have to experiment a little more with it. I'd also add that previously, if you remember in my previous drawing, I did every detail per square inch. So I would get the drawing up to finished level in one little spot, and then I move on to the next spot and then get it up to another finished level. That's not typically how I like to work. For one thing, it can kind of throw off your value range, just because you don't exactly know how all the puzzle pieces are going to fit together. So this one I was a little bit more mindful of trying to bring up all the values at once. I still kind of fell into the small trap of trying to do all the details section by section, but for the most part I did kind of try to do all of it at once, and that was good because it still kept me pretty engaged with this piece. I think by the end of the last piece I was getting pretty tired and pretty bored of all the non-exciting parts of the composition, things like the background, mountains, trees, and stuff like that. And there was a little bit of that here, but not quite as much, which is good. And honestly, I feel like doing these long compositions I've mentioned this before, but I don't have as much experience doing these big, epic pieces, just because I just haven't found the time to do that over, an evening of just, exercises, which are obviously important, but there is a different type of skill and showmanship that you need to kind of learn to have when it comes to this type of work. When you're working at this level of detail and precision, it's relatively new to me. So I'm saying that to say that I feel like every one of these pieces, I learn a ton. I learn a lot of things that I don't really know how to properly articulate, to be honest, especially on a technical level. But I think that just kind of goes to show how much I really have to learn. I think once you start becoming a master at something, there's probably not as much that you're learning, at least at this type of rate. Obviously, your attitude should be that you're always learning. But just like strength gains, you're not going to be adding 20 pounds on the bar after every training session. You're going to be making small improvements if you're, an advanced or intermediate lifter. But when you're a beginner, you have the luxury of being able to acquire all of these newbie gains and really just be flooded with new information every time you do this. And I'm kind of mixing my analogies here with drawing and lifting, but I think the same rules kind of apply. The younger you are in your training, the more you learn and the more you acquire knowledge faster. Now we're going back to the figure. I'm kind of really honing in on the details, making sure everything kind of comes together properly, making sure all of the value ranges are at the same kind of level of contrast. And I've also made sure to rework some areas that I thought were needed. But after a couple more hours, a little bit of work and some elbow grease, this is what I came up with. This summer's been a really amazing journey. I'm sorry that it has to come to an end, though that doesn't mean that this is the end of my entire creative journey. I'm really glad to have done this starving artist summer. But we're not done quite yet. Stay tuned for the finale. Psych. All right. Here's the deal. I am currently at my parents' house picking up this previous drawing I did over here. And when I compared it to this one that I just finished, before shipping it off and taking them both to the framers, I realized that I didn't feel like these two were as cohesive as I would like, um, especially with, even the cohesiveness in and of itself with this one, between the foreground elements and the background. So I added a bit of a gradient to the horizon line, added a little bit more depth and three-dimensionality to it, in a slightly stylized way. I ended up having to use these cheap pencils at my parents' house here, but Anyway, here they are.